Welcome to the Concussion Fix Podcast, where we lift the veil on concussion recovery and empower you with real answers to real questions about persistent concussion symptoms. Each episode, you'll hear real, live Q&A sessions with real members of the Concussion Fix program, an online recovery program that has helped more than 3,000 people find relief from their persistent concussion symptoms. Guided by our experienced clinical team, Dr. Paul Hrkal, Melinda Krynen Hill, and myself, Dr. Cameron Marshall, we're here to share insights, empathy, and a clear path forward. In order to protect the privacy of the members, we have stripped away names and blurred faces. Please remember all information shared is for educational purposes only and should not replace medical advice. If you need extra support and guidance for your recovery, we encourage you to check out the Concussion Fix program by visiting concussiondoc.io or Google Concussion Fix and read some reviews and see if it's right for you. Whether you're looking for answers, hope, or just a little bit of encouragement, we're here for you. You're not alone. Recovery is possible, and it starts right here.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning or afternoon, depending where you are. Happy Q&A day.
It could be the night too, Nikki. You never know.
Yes,
Right?
yes, actually. It very well could. We've had people come join us from Australia. And it's like midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., depending on where they are.
Is overnight now. Australia is.
We also love to celebrate wins in the program. And so this week we want to celebrate who started the program at 78 out of 132 and is down to 0 in 3 months. So congratulations to them. That is amazing. And who was started at 42 out of 132 and is down to 12 in 4 months. So congratulations to both of those members. Otherwise, we can start with our first question with
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. I'm probably going to direct this to Dr. Paul. I've got into the nutrition section and have started assessing what I'm eating, and I'm into week 3 of following the plan. I considered myself to be quite a healthy eater anyway prior, already gluten-free. I'm not quite dairy. I'm on goat dairy. We found that a few years ago, cow dairy wasn't kind to my gut, but goat is good. And obviously still eat eggs and everything. Low sugars. My problem is, I know you advise against throwing yourself straight into the whole plan and changing everything, but that's kind of what I've ended up doing. And I kind of live in a household where the other people, they're not great planners in terms of meals. So a lot of it's fallen on to me to deal with for myself, which I've found quite hard work. So I've had a conversation with the people I live with, and what I'm coming to you with, my question is just in terms of the cooking methods. So I think a lot of the dishes that I was eating prior, that they're quite healthy and whatever, but in terms of the cooking methods, I'd just like you to sort of go over, for example, is risotto a good option at the moment, and things like ratatouille, where things are being cooked for quite a long time, simmering or whatever. Because there's a bit of an argument going on in our house.
So what's the problem? What's the contention? I guess both of those dishes are fine. You can modify some of them to make them even more friendly for your brain in terms of recovery. But what's the rub there?
I think it's just these are dishes that we'll all be able to cook and eat. So a lot of the stuff on the plan, it seems to be that kind of low not a lot of cooking involved, which is fine. It suits me fine. But for the people I live with, if we're going to start sharing the responsibilities and whatever, that it might not suit them. So we're just trying to find a bit of a middle ground in terms of dishes that we were previously eating, just to make sure that they're suitable.
Yeah, so both of the dishes you mentioned are fine, because you can definitely make risotto gluten-free, because it's rice. And now, again, for you personally, it sounds like you don't do well with dairy products, and risotto typically has a lot of butter in it and milk and cream as well. Now,
No, I don't a recipe that it doesn't include any of that. So
okay, so that's totally fine. You can continue. Same with ratatouille. My understanding is that it's the whole bunch of different, root vegetables and vegetables cut up. And again, you're just subbing out, the type of oil. Maybe you could use something like olive oil instead of a butter. If you really wanted to do that. So both of those are totally fine. Remember, the diet plan is just a guide. We give recipes as options in the two meal plans that we've presented in the 2.0 version. And there's a lot of good ideas, but they really are meant to be springboard ideas for you to then apply it to your own cultural and personal taste preferences. So hopefully that gives you the license to actually just get creative.
yeah, I mean, that's the other problem, because my injury has brought out my autism, so I find it very difficult to go. A lot of the advice you were giving was just ease into it, do a bit of this and a bit of that. I find that really hard, which is why I've gone all in with the meal plan. So I don't know. I guess I'm just struggling in terms of trying to maintain it, because I'm desperate to keep up with a lot of the snacking and all of that. I don't really know what my question is now after that.
If I'm reading between the lines, it sounds like you're looking for some sort of validation or advice and saying, hey, you go ahead and make the meal plan your own within the context and the kind of framework. But if you have certain preferences in your family, you can make literally mac and cheese, which is something that you'd consider the most anti-concussion fix diet. You can make it concussion fix friendly with gluten-free noodles. And you can use things like olive oil instead and coconut milk instead of regular milk, and butter. There's ways around it that may modify the taste slightly. What it really does, Teresa, is that it kind of forces people to look a little bit outside of their comfort zone of I just go and get a bag of milk, and I go get a stick of butter, and I go and get the regular cheese. You have to look for alternatives for some of those staples. But once you've gone through that exploratory process, people just are off to the races eating gluten-free that's still high in fiber and still tastes really good.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but that's reassuring to hear.
Yeah.
I think for me, I'm already seeing the benefit of eating 5 times, because I know I was struggling to get into that routine of having the snacks and the smaller meals. But I just wanted to feed that back, that's really helped me even into week 3. So the blood sugar.
I'm so glad to hear that. So glad to hear that.
Yeah. Blood sugar issues were ridiculous. So yeah, that's been really good. But yeah, you've answered my questions, and I'll stop stressing over this.
No problem. I'm glad you came and asked it.
Okay, great. Thank you, Paul.
Okay, let's move on to.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey.
Yeah, so I've been going through the course, focusing a lot on the anxiety and the nervous system sections. So I'm about 5 months after my concussion. So some of the strategies they have been working for me as far as the nervous system and the anxiety. I've been doing the anti-inflammatory diet for about 3 months now. But I still, the thing that's kind of bugging me the most is I do have that 30 BPM increase when I stand up. I do think that's causing a lot of my anxiety issues still. So I'm kind of curious, what your recommendation would be as far as next steps. Should I consider going to a cardiologist at this point, or is it worth going to like a concussion clinic. Just really trying to figure out like who the right person would be to see for this. And also toss this in there too, is that I do get my hormones checked and they're pretty messed up as well. So I'm kind of like stuck between these two places, and I guess I'm trying to figure out like which step between those two would be worth addressing first, or maybe at the same time.
Can I ask you what hormones are affected?
Yeah. So my testosterone is I think it was at 138. Is it PGNL or something like that? My free testosterone super low. My IGF-1 was super high. My DHEA was super high. And then my FSH I think was low too.
All right. And obviously there is a person that requisitioned this, and have they followed up on that?
Kind of. So it's just taking a while. So
Okay.
it was through my primary care. They've been not so great, and so I guess that's kind of why I'm asking, where I should go.
Right. Okay. So, I mean, unfortunately, your primary care provider is the point person on referrals. And
Yeah.
so it sounds like it needs to be addressed by an endocrinologist. So that is the referral. Sometimes, Ryan, you got to be the squeaky wheel, and you got to like go back to the family doctor, because these hormones can absolutely impact the symptoms that you mentioned. But it does sound that there's an autonomic issue, which I know Dr. Marshall will address here in a second. Because that does require an additional expert or specialist to work at, along with some of the recommendations that we talk about in the course. I think there's a two-pronged approach, but it sounds like you're still in the phase that requires a full assessment, at least as far as conventional medicine can take you.
Yeah, makes sense.
From the autonomic perspective, you mentioned you have a 30 BPM increase when you stand up. Is that just immediately upon standing, or is that after 2 minutes of standing?
Yeah, I did the modified test. And I did it recently, and then I did it about a month ago, and they're mostly the same results. Yeah, I've been trying to do.
So you lie down. So you lie down for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
You check your heart rate, and then you stand up and you stand still for 2 minutes, and then you check your heart rate out for 2 minutes, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, and that's still 30?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so that does kind of qualify as the pod situation. Have you gone through, like, are you at the exercise POTS modules yet?
Yeah, so I've been implementing that for about 6 weeks now. Doing like the recumbent. Been really trying to up my salt intake.
Hydration.
Yeah, a lot of hydration. Just I still feel like I haven't felt any of those changes. Like, and I think part of the problem is that I still lie down too much, so I'm trying to rectify that. But I guess that kind of comes back to the question of like, who would be the right person to see? But is that more of like a cardiologist, do you think, or?
Yeah, I mean, typically, like it can be. It can be a cardiologist, but it can also be like a PT that specializes in POTS. Like there's POTS rehab programs that are kicking up. Now, here's the thing I will say though, is that so far from the research, it seems that like post-concussion POTS is different than like regular POTS. Like regular POTS typically will affect, post-pubescent females. That's like the main kind of group that gets impacted by POTS. And the treatment for that is obviously going through like the Levine protocol, kind of recumbent exercise protocols and like weight training and that type of stuff. Hydration, salt intake, trying to remain upright as much as possible. But then you got to also think of like the other aspects, like vagus nerve stimulation techniques that Dr. Hrkal talks about to try and do that. Now, anxiety will throw that for a loop too, right? So you also have to be addressing your anxiety, because anxiety will obviously just continue to dysregulate your nervous system. And then if you maintain a dysregulated state for a long period of time, well, then you start to get all these hormone dysfunctions as well that go with it, just based on stress, right? So it's kind of this holistic picture. When you look at post-concussion POTS, that seems to be related to like other concussion symptoms. So as the other concussion symptoms go away,
many times the POTS issues tend to resolve, right? So there's kind of this like fork in the road. And here you are, you could decide, I want to go full bore after the POTS situation. Or you could decide, I'm just going to continue to work on concussion as a whole in the hopes that the POTS resolves as I address these other issues. Right? So you can kind of go either direction here, and there's no real right answer. I don't think at this point. We don't know what the best course of action is because, I mean, POTS as a concept is still relatively new. Like most doctors wouldn't even know what you're talking about if you even brought it up. So it's just becoming more and more well known, especially like after COVID. Like I think COVID kind of brought the POTS situation to the forefront because a lot of people end up with POTS after COVID. So it's becoming more and more well known, and there are POTS rehabilitation programs starting up. So you could probably do a search in your area to try and see who those specialists might be. It might not be your typical cardiologist. You may want to find somebody who's more specialized in POTS specifically, or dysautonomia would be the term maybe to look for. But then again, it's all those other facets, right? So it's vagus nerve stimulation. It's trying to address that underlying anxiety. It's trying to prioritize sleep. It's trying to, get regular exercise, getting outside a lot, socialization, laughter, breathing exercises, mindfulness, meditation, all that kind of stuff kind of goes into it. But like the POTS program, if you look at the Levine program, it's like 6 months long. Right. So these things do take time. So you do have to have some patience in working through it. It's not going to be an overnight solution. But again, like I said, when it comes to concussion, it's like working on all the other symptoms too. Like, do you have a lot of other symptoms, or is it mostly related to POTS? Like, what would you say?
Yeah, I'd say my biggest ones, anxiety is a big one for sure. And then I do have, I've had visual issues since day one.
Right.
So I'd say those are the two big ones. I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
And if you think about what that does, right? Like, so what does that do to your nervous system, right? If like visually you're not picking up your environment well, it's going to make your nervous system go into like, hey, something's wrong here, which is going to give you more fight or flight, which is then going to increase your anxiety, which is going to give you more fight or flight, which is then going to impact your autonomic function, which is then going to lead to these heart rate fluctuations with changes in position. So it's all kind of, it all fits together. And that's really the tricky thing, is trying to like, address all those things. So you may want to consider continuing to do what you're doing, continuing to do the exercise, and maybe look into the visual issue, right? Is it a visual issue? Is it a neck issue potentially? Maybe starting in with some of that may help because if that starts to improve, maybe your nervous system can calm down a bit, right? Some situations you can kind of keep moving through as long as you're doing the foundational stuff and you're doing it as part of your everyday routine. You don't have to stay there forever. You can start incorporating the other factors, because even neck dysfunction can cause autonomic issues. Right. So it's like, hey, you're doing all this foundational stuff. You're working hard on the diet. You're doing the recumbent exercise. You're hydrating. You're doing the salt, and you still have the issues. Okay, well, keep doing that, but then maybe look at, okay, maybe I should have my neck assessed, and maybe I should look at my visual and vestibular systems, because maybe there's something there that's actually contributing to that autonomic. And then if you,
it is definitely a source of huge anxiety. Is like I'm constantly checking like why my vision is messed up.
Right.
I mean, I've been doing that since day one, so I'm sure that's definitely part of it. I know that with the program, it's always the last step.
Yeah.
Or, doing the therapy. So
it still is the last step, right? But you're already doing all of this stuff, right? You don't have to like completely like conquer this before you can move on. As long as you're doing it as part of your everyday routine and it's part of kind of what you do day to day, good. As long as you continue to do that, then you can add the next piece, which could be now at this point in time. It sounds like you're on the diet, you're doing the mindfulness stuff, you're working on the anxiety, you're working on the autonomic regulation, you're doing the recumbent exercise, you're hydrating, you're doing the salt. So all that you're doing. So you keep doing that, and then let's go, okay, because maybe the visual dysfunction is contributing to this. So now you add that piece in, and also like, maybe have somebody look at your neck, because even just getting some answers, right? Like if you go to a neuro-optometrist and they do a really good assessment on you and tell you like, well, this is why, and there's nothing like wrong. It's just you have a little bit of dysfunction here that we can work with. That might just relieve some of that anxiety. You might be like, okay, now I have some answers. I have some concrete things, and that can sometimes just make you feel a little bit more at ease with the whole thing.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I would suggest adding that in. And like once you're doing like everything and you're still having this issue and you're like, okay, now maybe you can start looking at like a POTS program or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That is very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I would also add the fact that you still need the hormones looked at as well. So because there's a lot of confusion what your driving factors are. And I always talk to my patients about what string do we pull on, or what multiple strings. You can't pull on all the strings at the same time.
Right.
Can't, you want to be working on your mindset, of course, but you can't be doing visual therapy and neck therapy and working with, it doesn't work to do all of it. So like, what are the few that we're going to work on first? And with a hormonal front, those are key things that are impacting the way you feel on a minute-to-minute basis. And if we can get some of those things stabilized, like for example, replace testosterone, we may be able to allow your neurochemical changes to be a lot more lasting, instead of always feeling like you're behind the eight ball. So there could be a hormonal reason why you continue to be stuck in this, we'll call it kind of like POTS state. It all contributes. You try to pull on as many strings that make sense with your primary care provider, and then do what Dr. Cam said.
This is interesting though. Like this is like if we were to regulate the other factors, would that potentially improve the hormone situation though? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, see, and that's where I was stuck too, is like, if I fix those, would the hormones go back? Or, it's like a chicken and the egg situation. And that's why, the past 2 months I've just been like, what the hell?
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, Paul and I right now are even having this little kind of debate. Like, what do you think, Paul? Like, what do you think?
Yeah.
Do you think it's better for him? Do you think it's better for him to go and look at like a TRT situation and then reevaluate? Or do you think it's better to like look at the other factors and see if testosterone improves with you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. So here, I think I have my opinion, and obviously I have my bias, but I'll use this analogy where if a person that comes to me is a woman that is going into menopause and has a ton of hot flashes. This is an example of a hormone deficiency. No matter how much she exercises, no matter how much she works on her mindfulness, her hot flashes may reduce, but they're still always going to be there during this period of time. So I look at your current hormonal situation as a result of the injury and maybe the sequelae or the things that happen after the injury. So if we look at what levers do we have to actually impact that we have something like a replacement option, it'll allow your brain to be what Dr. Mark Gordon calls a neuropermissive environment. It'll allow your brain to recover when it actually has the hormones that it's missing. In the same way that when you have your neck myofascial work done, it will allow your visual system to fully recover. It's very difficult to have your visual system rehabilitated if your neck is messed up still. It's impossible. So I look at that type of analogy. So I would look at your mindset, correct your hormones, and work on your neck as the 3 core things. I would put my full focus on those things. The mindset may need to be working with a psychologist. Of course, implement the entire Concussion Fix diet, because diet's going to be helpful. All the mindfulness exercises are helpful. That's kind of foundation. But we're talking about the next priorities would be those 3 things, in my opinion. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, no, I mean, this is great, So I think that what you're saying then is like his first stop should be the hormone piece.
Yes.
And then if we can optimize that, maybe the response to the other things
yes,
better.
exactly.
Okay.
In the same way that if I give a woman that's really struggling with hot flashes, can't sleep at all, if you're not sleeping, if you're not functioning, and I replace it again temporarily, all of a sudden she has the ability to work on all the other things I'm asking her to work on, because she actually is getting rest and sleep, and her brain's functioning properly, or at least closer being functioned. The other thing to think about also, Cam, is that what tool do we have as a medical system that actually can change something rapidly. Where, something like a psychologist, it takes work to unpack a lot of that kind of stuff. Where if you are low in testosterone and I replace that for the next 6 months, all of a sudden your brain now has this key tool to properly function, because I can do it.
Right.
I can't do other things like change your vision back to the way it was. That takes neuroplasticity. Right. That's a long process.
Right.
But I can do this with hormones.
Right. And then maybe you have more energy to be able to do the thing. Like, yeah. Okay.
That's my theory. It's my bias, but I think it's about like what tools we have. Let's use them.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable to me. Like, so maybe that's the stop then. So let's go hormones first, and then neck.
Okay.
For sure, neck, and then I think psychology and diet are like always there. They're always like
yeah. I mean, I'm working with a therapist right now, so that's good.
And I mean, sometimes I've had this happen with patients before, that like a short course of medication can be helpful too from a mental health perspective, right? Like, like an antidepressant or anti-anxiety medication can just give you that, that next level to be able to get to, especially if you've been doing this for a while and you're not getting there. Like,
well, if your hormones aren't messed up, I would say like that, to me, that makes a lot of sense, Cam, if we've done everything else, because again, that to me comes down like that's a lever we can use, because maybe their hormones are fine and their blood work's fine, and they are now working on all this longer term stuff. Testosterone in men, absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, changes your mood, 100%. So, let's not look past that first. Then I would even look at adrenals. You work with an endocrinologist, but then always backfill with a naturopathic doctor, a functional medicine doctor, even a couple visits, just to be like, okay, so what else can I do to look at some other hormones? Adrenals, thyroid, they play a key role in supporting that. If your FSH is off, obviously your pituitary is affected in some way. There's no doubt to me about that.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Okay. So yeah, hormones seems like the first stop.
Sorry, last question then. I mean, I had originally gotten a CAT scan and it was fine. I mean, is it worth getting an MRI at this point then? Like, I mean, it's like, 5 months.
Let's see what the endocrinologist says, because if they suspect some sort of pituitary dysfunction, they will give you an MRI. CAT scan, I'm assuming it was done in the hospital after the injury immediately, right?
Yeah, it was like
it's not going to show later.
Yeah, they're looking for bleeding in those.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha. That's not going to tell us about, like, sometimes you might actually see in the sella turcica in the brain, that where the pituitary gland sits, you can actually see there's a dysfunction. There's a shrinkage, for example. That is something an MRI will pick up, but a CAT scan immediately after. Hormones take weeks and months to kick in terms of the deficiencies. They're looking for like what will kill you. Like, is there a subdermal hematoma? Is there a brain bleed? That kind of thing.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, good question. I think people would find that your question's helpful. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Good luck.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey.
So my question is for Dr. Hrkal, and so I'm on the sleep section of the course right now.
Okay.
And I will say I haven't been consistent with like my sleep time and wake time, which is probably a problem, and I'm trying to fix that. But I was just wondering, like, so I have a Whoop wristband and I can track everything. And when should I do a sleep study? Like, how do I know if that's necessary, or is having a Whoop, is that all I need? Or I don't know. That's my first question about it.
It's a good question. I think people listening to this can resonate with sleep issues. So here's the way it usually works in my experience. We do everything possible to correct your sleep pattern and habits. So if you're saying, I'm still not going to bed on time, why? Like, unpack that, look at that. Is it I'm on screens? Is it I can't fall asleep? Is it I need melatonin? These are things that a sleep study is not necessarily going to achieve for you. It sounds by your accent that you're in the US. I know here in Canada, it's very hard to get a sleep study. It takes a long time. Patients usually wait 6 to 12 months for it. your family doctor, whoever is working with you as your point person, they're the ones that has to make that kind of referral to go to a sleep clinic. Usually that is done after a person has exhausted the kind of first line, like they do sleep hygiene, they maybe try some supplements and herbs, then they might go to a medication. If they still find that they're waking up exhausted, if they still find they're tossing and turning all night, they can't fall asleep, that's usually when a sleep study is suggested. So have you tried those three things yet?
The three things as in what were the
Hygiene,
three things?
Going over like the sleep hygiene and really fully committing to it, avoiding anything that might disrupt your sleep. Basically the sleep hygiene document that we have in the course. So like you have access to that. Secondly, looking at some additional tools like melatonin, some natural things, L-theanine I talk about in the course, saffron I talk about in 2.0, where it's helpful for sleep. These are supplements that do not have the side effect profile that medications do when it comes to sleep. And then lastly, truly is like a trial of medications. That's usually what a primary care provider does before they send you for a sleep study, unless they have evidence that you have some sort of sleep apnea, which is I'm stopping breathing while sleeping. A partner says I'm snoring all the time. You're getting 8 hours or 9 hours of sleep and you're absolutely exhausted overnight. You wake up, your mouth is dry. The person sleeping beside you says this guy's coughing and sputtering all night. Like those are the types of things that you'd be looking for.
So I think, so I've started, well, I was on melatonin for I've been on it for probably a couple years now.
Okay.
And I was taking 10 milligram melatonin, and I stopped taking it, and it actually feels like my sleep improved when I stopped taking it. So, and I haven't taken the other supplements yet, which I intend to start taking soon, or just trying some of them out.
Okay.
My issue is a lot of times I have coaching until 8:45 at night, and my plan I set for myself is to go to sleep by 10, but I end up getting home and I don't know, I haven't had a chance to wind down and just chill out, so I end up turning on a podcast or reading or something, and then it ends up being 11 or 12 o'clock. So that's kind of my own issue though, which I can resolve by not coaching that late.
What time do you wake up?
So I don't wake up at the same time every day, because every time I wake up, I set it to a time that's dependent on what time I went to sleep, because I am anxious about being really tired during the day because my symptoms are worse. So it basically changes every day.
Do you have flexibility when you can wake up? Like, let's say, what if you don't set an alarm in the morning? Just wake up when your body wakes up.
I haven't tried that since I got my concussion 2.5 years ago, so I don't even know what would happen.
Like if you don't have to wake up, let's say for a 7 a.m. job or something like that, or have class at 8 o'clock, you kind of want to see what your body's circadian rhythm and pattern are, and maybe start with that. Like the Whoop gives you some information for sure, but I think from what you've described, I think you're probably not quite ready to go get a sleep study yet. Do you wake up during the night, or do you have trouble falling asleep? Where's the actual sleep issue? What is the issue?
So if I go to sleep at 10 or earlier, which I rarely do, but when I do that, sometimes I can't fall asleep when I get in bed.
Okay.
But if I get in bed at 10:30 or later, I usually pretty much immediately fall asleep.
Okay.
And I think regardless of when I fall asleep, it feels like I wake up I'm awake very often the second half of the night. So between 12 and 4 a.m. usually I get pretty good sleep, maybe 12 and 3, something like that. But then after that, it feels like I'm awake and then asleep and then awake and then asleep. And the other problem is I feel like I like to sleep on my back and my sides, but I have a different size pillow for my side because my shoulders are really broad. So I don't know if that's influencing me waking up, because when I want to switch on my side, I have to move my pillow over and use a different pillow and then switch back to the one on my back and stuff.
So
that could be. So like when you wake up, are you in pain or in discomfort at all? Like usually people kind of know why they wake up. Like a woman wakes up with hot flashes, or you wake up with pain, or you have to go urinate, or you wake up for no reason. Your mind is moving and racing. And so have you narrowed that down?
honestly, not really. It feels like I just wake up and I can't think of a trigger. It just feels like it's always happening.
Okay. All right. Uh, so that might be like that you're being woken up by, some sort of like stress hormone piece. Do you eat before you go to bed?
I try to eat at like 7,
Okay.
and I'd say I've been doing that probably like half of the time, and then other days I will eat a little later.
Hmm.
Um, but what do you think about that time though? Like eating at 7 and then going to bed at 10? Is that
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I think that's no problem. Yeah. I think if you went to bed at 11 o'clock every night and you just woke up at 7, that's 8 hours of sleep. That's plenty for you. I wonder if you're waking up with, now it's almost like habitual that you're almost like, how am I going to sleep? It's going to become almost like a bit of a fixation, a problem. Is there any sort of anxiety or kind of a worry or frustration around this?
Yeah, I'd say so. And I've also noticed that whenever actually have to get up early for something, my sleep is like terrible because I'm thinking about it the whole night.
That's
Right.
everyone. That's
Yeah.
everyone. If I have to set an alarm, if I have a flight in the morning, like I won't sleep at all night. I'll keep waking
Yeah.
up and like, oh my God, did I miss it? So I think everyone experiences that to some degree.
So here's a little trial for you. Why don't you don't set an alarm if possible for the next 2 weeks? Just see what happens. And what that will do maybe is take the load off mentally, so to speak, off there is some sort of impending wake up coming up and I have to get up for that time. I think you're trying to time like your wake up time based on when I go to sleep. That's a hard thing to time. I think I would ideally your goal is to be not in bed by 10. I want you to be in bed by 11. So give yourself a little freedom there, but you're winding down and ready for bed at 10:30 and you want to be asleep by 11. And then if you can, don't set an alarm and just see what your body does. You may need to just get out of this habit of trying to micromanage that sleep aspect a little bit.
Hmm. The other thing I think I'm just predicting this might be an issue for me is I like I just try not to look at the clock like at all costs at night, so I never look at it and I just trust my alarm. So like if I wake up and I kind of feel like I'm ready to go for the day, but my alarm hasn't gone off, I'll just like fall back asleep because I don't know, like I'm waiting for the alarm. So like if I do this thing for 2 weeks where I just wake up when my body has me wake up, I feel like I already wake up several times. So would it just be like what the first time I wake up and I kind of feel rested, or um I don't know, like I don't know which time I would actually get up because I feel like I wake up a lot.
Yeah, so if you wake up at 4, you're like ready to rock and roll for the day, you think, or not?
Probably not that early, but I probably at like 6 I would be, I think. I mean,
Okay, so if it's 6, or if how about this? If it's 6 or later, you just wake up and get going if you can.
okay, so I should look at the clock then.
Yeah, you
Okay.
look at glance at the clock. Again, we don't want to have any sort of like um fixation on to something to do or not to do. Like, if the clock is the issue, we have to kind of work through that. Like I think hiding all the clocks in your room is going to be a short-term solution with a long-term issue. Like we ideally want to be able to look at something, not have the adverse response and get back to bed. Like that's the goal, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
so, so let's take that out. If you feel like you're ready to rock at 6 o'clock, get up and go and see how you feel on that. I want you to the goal here is for you to see where your current circadian pattern is at. Because right now I feel like it's being a little too micromanaged. And you're totally right. I coach late. I coach my son volleyball. I get home sometimes at 8:30 and I need an hour or two to kind of decompress before we actually jump right into bed. It's rare that people are able to do that. But there's
Yeah.
healthy ways of doing that, or there's ways of just being on screens and disrupting your deep sleep patterns.
Okay.
This is where, like, so one of the things like that stood out for me is that you mentioned that when you try to go to bed early, like 10 o'clock, you can't sleep. Well, it may be that your circadian rhythm set point, your optimal time to go to sleep is more around that 11 o'clock range, which is why you find it easy to go to sleep then. The cool thing about like the Aura Ring, like when I use it, it learns what your typical natural pattern is. And then it'll tell you like your ideal bedtime, your sleep window is between this time and this time. And it's usually about an hour window. So you got a good window to get in there. Like my optimal bedtime is between 9 and 10. So typically I'm like lights out 9:30, quarter to 10. That's usually when I'm lights out. But that's like this thing has learned my typical kind of circadian rhythm, right? So yours may be that your ideal bedtime window is between 10:30 and 11:30.
Yeah.
Right? And that's fine. Right? And your body will start to wake up after you've had sufficient sleep. And the way to kind of set that is like once you kind of get on that path and realize like, okay, if I'm going to bed between 10:30 and 11:30, I want to get between 7 and 8 hours, let's say. So then what's my wake window now? It's going to be between, 7:30, 8:30 kind of thing, right? And so then you could eventually set your alarm for just every day consistently. My alarm's going to go off at 7:30 no matter when I go to bed, right? And then what you do to kind of ingrain that is as soon as that alarm goes off, try to get outside, go for a walk, get the sunlight on your eyes. That sets your circadian rhythm so that basically that time at night is going to be when you're going to be most sleepy to go to bed again. And eventually you get on this like just consistent schedule and you're not trying to micromanage anything. It's just that's how it is. But you give yourself enough of that wind down time because your ideal time to go to bed is probably in that 10:30 to 11:30 range anyway, just based on what you're describing, because you can go to sleep really easily during that period. But any earlier you can't. So it's like don't try to fight your natural rhythm, because then you're just going to be struggling. You're just tossing and turning and being like, "Oh man, why can't I sleep?" It's like cuz your natural rhythm is this. And it's insane because when I look at my ring and my ring will say your ideal bedtime is between, let's say, 9 and 10. If I go to bed at 10:15, I'm tossing and turning. I've like missed my window. And it's like I can't, it's crazy. It's crazy how accurate it is. But if I go to sleep at 9:45, let's say, I'm out within a few minutes. So your body will have that natural set point. And like I think what Dr. Hrkal's saying is like it's probably in that time period. So just say, okay, I'm going to go to bed around that time. And you have a good window. Like it's not like it's like, okay, this 5-minute slot is when it's like you got an hour there to play with. So if you say 11 o'clock, it's likely going to give you a half an hour before and a half an hour after. And so that should be fine. And 11 to 7 is still 8 hours. Like that's fine.
Isn't that not 8 hours though? Because you're awake in the night. Like, cause my Whoop says that I'm awake 19% of the night. So that ends up being like an hour and a half. And like, do I include that in the amount of hours that I should be like considering myself sleeping?
But everyone's hours are different. Like my typical sleep is between 7 and 7.5. But that's just I don't set an alarm. I have young kids that are my alarm. But I'm in bed at like, 9:30ish. And, my overall sleep is generally 7 to 7.5 hours. But that's just what my body needs. Like I don't feel tired throughout the day or anything like that. So everyone's different. Like your ideal sleep may only be 7 hours that you require. That's why we're saying like just wake up when you wake up. And you'll start to see like maybe you don't need 8 hours. Like the idea of 8 hours is just an arbitrary number. Some people only need 4 hours. Some people need 9 or 10. Like everyone's a little different.
What do you think about like eating breakfast and lunch? I'm not on the diet section yet, but I've been inconsistent where sometimes I'll only have one meal at like 12, or sometimes I'll have breakfast and lunch. Would that affect sleep at all?
Not really. Usually the food that you eat later in the day makes the biggest difference. But I will say this, people that are fasting or not eating enough, there's a greater chance that they're going to wake up with low blood sugar. And that's one of the main reasons that you wake up overnight without a kind of like, you don't feel anything. You just wake up and you may feel hungry, Some patients tell me that, and other people don't really, their body's waking them up because they're low in blood sugar, but they're not really having a strong hunger cue at that point. So skipping meals for sure can impact that. That's why we really emphasize on regular eating. That's why the earlier question was saying she really appreciates the regular eating patterns that we instill, and just eating higher quality and less high calorie stuff each meal. So high protein, good fats, slow the absorption of blood sugar. Some people are very sensitive to certain diets, certain foods before bed. Other people can eat and fall asleep and it doesn't affect them. But generally speaking, most people don't feel good if they eat late at night, which it sounds like at 7, you're not nowhere close to that.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
like skipping meals also is going to put stress on your nervous system too. Like your body's going to be in a bit of a heightened state of stress if you're not eating regularly. So I would try to eat as regularly as possible, just to kind of get on that sequence of eating regularly.
Yeah, it's a good habit.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like the point about not sticking to like, I got to get 8 hours, like that's the part of this like wearable technology that, it's a double-edged sword. While it gives you more data, we sometimes, we get paralysis by analysis, where we have so much information that now we're like, okay, well, I'm not in the perfect zone that this thing tells me. Well, some people, like I'll remember in university, I could function on 6 hours of sleep. My buddy had to get 8. Like he has to get 8, but I could do less. I feel great if I get 7 hours. Like I'm fully functional. I'm not tired. If I get less than that, my immune system and my focus and stuff start being impacted. For some people, they need 8 or 9. And that's just something that as a person develops in their teenage and then in your 20s and 30s, you learn that about yourself. And a concussion throws everything off, but then we can't forget about like, what's our circadian pattern? What's our predisposition? I feel better when I eat this way. We have to think about what was kind of like the go-to pre-concussion, because that gives us a bit of a clue on what our steady state is.
Yeah, like my sleep scores on my Oura ring will be really high with 7.5 hours. So it's like you just know what your body needs now, and then I don't really worry too much about it, because that's just what, you know what I mean? So I wouldn't be so focused on 8 hours, but like if you wake up at 6 and you're like, yeah, I feel refreshed.
Yeah, you got extra. Go work out, or go move your body, go get some natural light, turn on the light box.
Go for a walk around the block, get the sunlight in your eyes, great. And then now you've set that point. And then at night, your body will naturally start to make you tired at a certain time. And that's when you go to sleep, right? Don't try to fight that. Be like, hey, this is my time. This is where I should go to sleep now. And then you'll wake up at whatever time it is. And
morning light makes a huge difference. Like if you're in a dark place, like where we live in Canada, where right now it's like the longest part of the year, using one of those happy lights for 20 minutes, at 10,000 LUX or lux, you're going to get some, really good benefits on your brain. But it's basically the anchor for your body's whole sleep-wake pattern, saying this is when I need to get up. So for you, maybe 6 a.m. is your wake-up time that you need to go. And I actually hear this a lot. If people try to like, well, someone told me I have to get 8 hours, so I try to go to bed at 10, but you're not ready. You actually have a messed up sleep those nights, that you're trying to overforce the actual time. So make it 11 o'clock. Don't disrupt stuff. Don't do disruptive things before you go to bed, and then let your body's own circadian pattern see what happens when you wake up. Maybe it's 7 hours. That's ideal. Okay.
Would using a happy light be better than just going outside if it's like not that bright out?
I think being outside and moving your body is always better, even though it might be overcast and cloudy. But if it's like pitch black outside, like at 5 a.m., you're not going to, or 6 nowadays, you're probably not going to get the full benefit. The happy light really is not meant to be used in the summer and when the days are long. It's really meant to be used when you literally don't have that light in the morning. Yeah, Cam's got his rocking there too. I have one right in my workout room, which is right next door. Yeah. So I get on the bike, 15 minutes, warm up, put that light on. It's off to the side, 45 degrees, maybe a meter or two away, and then you're good to go.
Cool.
Cool?
Yeah, thank you.
All right, good questions. All right, Nikki, I think we had a couple questions in the chat.
Yes. Oh, there's my video. All right. So piggybacking, just because we were talking about sleep, I'll go with the sleep question first. I'm like a toddler. I never want to go to sleep. How do I break the habit of staying up late?
How do you break any habit? That's probably the best way to answer that question. So if you have a habit of having a nightcap every night, and we know that alcohol is not good for us, that's a habit. Your body's used to it. Your nervous system's used to getting that little bit of a calmness. Well, you're going to have to replace that maybe with something that is non-alcoholic, and so you have that routine. Okay, I'm going to have a cup of tea, or I'm going to have a cup of like sour cherry juice, which has its natural melatonin. So with sleep, it's there are things that we can do to help us feel a little more tired. So for one, if you feel like you're always going to bed late, try to use a happy light in the morning, especially in the winter months, to try to get your brain to say, hey, it's morning at 7 a.m. And that might mean you're setting your alarm at 7 o'clock, getting a happy light, sitting there on your counter while you're making your breakfast or whatever it might be. That's one way. Light is one of the most powerful ways of regulating your circadian pattern. The other question is what are you doing in the hours of 11 to 1 a.m.? Like, I had a few patients the last couple of weeks that they're like, Dr. Paul, don't talk to me about my sleep because I'm just a night owl. I go to bed at 1 or 2 a.m. I said, okay, cool. What are you doing during that time? Almost every single person will tell me something that is unproductive or just downright unhealthy. Well, I'm like scrolling around on like my news channels online. I'm like, okay, well then you're stimulating yourself. Remember, everything that's quote unquote pleasurable but stimulatory is going to have some sort of pleasurable response in the dopamine pathway. So it's like really jazzing yourself up. That could be video games. That can be, for maybe if you're not into that, maybe it's reading Facebook about something that you're really passionate about and it's exciting. Like some people that have family in the Middle East were really struggling when that conflict was in full height. So, really look at the pattern and then replace the unhealthy pattern with something that is positive, like, reading a print book compared to reading something online is a simple little switch. I like doing a little pre-bed ritual of having a tea, stretching, not turning the lights down low, lighting a candle, saying a couple prayers, whatever works to get you in that state. And that has to be that routine. And that's how you create new habits. And it sucks the first 2 weeks, but after 2 weeks, the habits start to break. And after about 40 days, the research shows that new habits can start forming.
She says she's watching NCIS and cruising Facebook.
Well, you pretty much proved my point right there. NCIS is not a good show to watch, first of all. Second of all,
not a calming one.
Facebook is so stimulatory because you're just cruising it, right? And you're every post, because we're scrolling, is like a new, that's interesting. Dopamine, and that is waking you up. And you like doing it because it's pleasurable, because people want dopamine, right? That's the essence of it. So anyways, I think that replace unhealthy patterns and habits with good habits, and you're going to habit stack, and that's going to ultimately lead to a better habit of you going to bed earlier.
Awesome. Someone here is asking about how often should they get their hormones checked. So they did do it before they joined the program. They are in your section now, Dr. Hrkal. So how often should people be getting that panel that you recommend tested?
So first question is, to help answer this one, is what was off the first time? So definitely recheck the things that were off the first time you ran that big panel. Usually I rarely have to run that huge screening panel multiple times, because now we've like focused in on what's actually the issue. And if it happens to be 3 or 4 things, those should be followed up within 6 to 12 months. Again, depending on what it is. If it's iron levels, then that should be sooner. Same with thyroid, same with B12 levels. If it's something like a hormone, do you expect any sort of change in that hormone? Or are you just hoping it gets better? Sometimes a doctor will say, let's do what's called watchful waiting, which is maybe it's just you being under a lot of stress. So let's just recheck this in 3 months. That's entirely possible. Kim and I have collaborated on lots of different patients where we've run blood work. And sometimes when you see a value that's like, it doesn't really make sense, we implement some lifestyle, we implement the Concussion Fix program, and we retest in 3 to 6 months. And those values just get better on their own because our body wants to be in homeostasis. And if they're not, if it's off a second time, then that's evidence that we need to go and do some deeper exploration. That might be a referral, that might be some treatment, that might be further watchful and waiting. So I don't think you need to run the full panel all the time. You just need to really focus on what was off for you, and then go from there.
Great. Question here about intermittent fasting. Your thoughts on the idea of needing at least 12 hours without eating overnight?
So intermittent fasting has a lot of research on it. I think there's a lot of benefit to intermittent fasting, but there are certain populations that don't do as well as on intermittent fasting. And that particular population that I'm thinking about could actually be applicable to concussion patients, because when you have dysautonomia, when you have some sort of POTS issues, your body's homeostasis in terms of regulating its blood sugar and blood pressure is already under extra stress. So doing intermittent fasting is a stressor. Like, we have to understand it. It's just like exercise or studying for an exam. You're putting an effort in and you're trying to get a beneficial effect back. With fasting, your body is actually changing its metabolism during the period of time it's fasting to trigger something called autophagy, which is basically a fancy way of saying I'm cleaning up the cells and junk that's inside of your body. So that can happen, but that also requires your body's own balancing systems to pump out more blood sugar to fuel your brain and switch over to something called ketones, which doesn't really happen in intermittent fasting, but you definitely are going to ask your body to regulate the blood sugar. That is a stressor for people that don't have a good adrenal system and an HPA axis is dysfunctional. So you can do a trial on seeing, like, you know what, I'm not going to eat from 6 until 12 the next day. So 6 p.m. all the way to 12 the next day. That's kind of intermittent fasting. How do you feel? Do you feel great? Do you feel off? Do you have more symptoms when you're fasting? This will help you determine, is this a good thing for your body at this point or not? But in general, we don't lead with intermittent fasting because it's very personalized, and there's a big population in PCS that may not do well with it.
I didn't do well with it. Like, I was intermittent fasting for years. And then I changed it up and started doing like breakfast right away in the morning. And basically I lost 40 pounds. So like, it's like, obviously my body really prefers that I eat more frequently.
That's right. Mine too.
And so, so I've gotten rid of the intermittent fasting, but I was doing it for like 5 years.
And can I ask you, Cam, why were you doing it?
Just, like influencers online talking about the potential benefits of it and like autophagy and all those things. Then I was doing it, but I found that it just like, it was probably just more stress on my system. And now that I'm eating more regularly, like, it's so much better. Like, literally I have like, I've lost 40 pounds. Like, that's crazy.
That's actually a really great question and a good tie-in to a lot of other questions that were asked today. Like, in the conversation we had with Jerome about sleep, we as clinicians and scientists and healthcare providers, we provide what research shows. And you can look at research on intermittent fasting, you can look at research on ketogenic diet, and like, you have to get 7 to 8 hours. But at the end of the day, your body is not a research study. And so you can get data from that, but really the trump card for you personally is what makes you feel the best and is healthy at the same time. And there's a little bit of give there. Like, of course, people might say, well, it feels better if I play video games for 4 hours a day. Yeah, that does. But if you really honestly break it down, you're probably not feeling good though. It feels pleasurable, but it's not healthy for you. So if we're kind of in a spectrum of being healthy, like you're eating unprocessed things, you're trying to get somewhere between 6 and 9 hours of sleep total, you're trying to not live being in a highly stressed environment. Everyone knows that that's not healthy for you, but individually, you may do better eating a slightly different way than maybe what this online influencer might tell you to do, or even what the Concussion Fix diet says. So use the principles, apply it to yourself. Just like Teresa asked, can I eat that dish? Yes, use the principles, apply it to that particular recipe. That is really the essence of personalized medicine. And that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to empower you. We're not saying you have to follow Dr. Cam and Dr. Paul's perfect script. Don't deviate off that because we know everything. We've never said that. We will never say that. Personalize it to yourself.
Actually, I have a question for you.
Sure.
For those who are starting to feel better, I would love to know your thoughts on sourdough bread. When it's fresh made, fresh milled, no glyphosate, no enrichments, real healthy flours, and baked yourself without any of the additives. Love to know your thoughts on sourdough.
I had 2 pieces this morning, truth be told. So there's a local organic bakery. So sourdough is a unique type of bread because it uses a unique starter, which is like a fermentation process. Bread has been consumed for thousands of years, back into the days of the Egyptians, where they were growing it on the banks of the Nile. The problem is that bread has really changed in the last 100 years, maybe even the last 50 years. And a lot of it has to do with the way it's grown, the types of wheat that's grown, how it's processed, how it is actually made. A lot of extra ingredients. So if you go through the Concussion Fix diet, you've avoided gluten, you've gotten to feel the benefits of that. Maybe it was dramatic and maybe you need to continue to be gluten-free, or maybe now you're reintroducing. A good way to start off is the type of thing you just described, Nikki, which is a bread that is made as cleanly and holistically as possible. Now, the reality is if you go to a supermarket and it says sourdough on it, it's not actually sourdough. So that is a marketing thing. Real sourdough is the way that Nikki described it. It has to be baked fresh. It has to be made with organic.
Oh, you muted yourself. I think you hit your microphone.
All right. I'm back. I should be good.
Yeah.
So it has to be made in this way. And this is a great place to start because it's much easier to digest. And then that's the purest way to expose yourself to gluten. And then eating a hamburger bun is a world of difference from that. And I think a lot of people don't feel good when they eat that type of wheat where they can tolerate this type. So I think it's a good reintroduction, Nikki. And I think it's probably the best way to consume wheat products. Again, obviously, always in moderation. If you're eating a whole loaf a day, you're not getting enough protein and good fats.
It is addictive though. Baking and eating. It's I've gotten almost addicted to baking with it and trying different things.
Have you shared the recipe on the newsfeed yet? I think that's a bit controversial because it's gluten. But what do you think?
I haven't shared it. I mean, I'm happy to. I know because a lot of people do like the artisan big round loaves. I like sandwich loaves. I like consistency and making it with sandwiches. So I just bake super simple and it's so easy. Once you get into it, it's so easy. I always thought it was going to be an extra child to take care of, but it really isn't. So
yeah, I think it'd be really cool. I think it's also very validating to hear that we're not against eating the best version of that food. The problem is that a lot of people don't do that, or they don't have access to it, or they don't know how. So that's why I suggested maybe sharing it. But maybe we'll talk about that and we'll do it in the right context of being like, hey, this is maybe when you reintroduce stuff, this is maybe one of the best things to try when you do reintroduce it. That's actually a great angle.
And not just using flour from the grocery store either, because a lot of that is full of glyphosates and all kinds of other things that's what we're trying to avoid. That's the gluten that we want to avoid.
Yeah. And if you don't know what that means, I do talk about it in a couple of the actual case presentations that I've done in the past where I talk about gluten in detail. So we have covered it in the resources.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, I think that's a great spot to wrap it up for today. So thank you for all the questions. Great discussions today. It was really nice to kind of have these longer discussions also with members sometimes. So I hope everyone has a fantastic week. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us. See ya.
Thanks, guys. Bye. Thank you for tuning in to the Concussion Fix podcast. We hope you found today's episode helpful and that it gave you a little more clarity, hope, and confidence on your road to recovery. Remember, every step you take matters, no matter how small it may seem. If you feel that you could use a little more support on your healing journey, check out the Concussion Fix program. Just visit concussiondoc.io or simply type Concussion Fix into Google and read some of the reviews from people who've already walked this path. With over 3,000 success stories and an average symptom reduction of nearly 50% in just the first few weeks, it might just be the help you need to break through. Thank you again for listening. If you found value in this episode, please share it with someone you think could benefit, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a session. Until next time, stay hopeful, stay curious, and continuously remind yourself that recovery is possible.